analysis in the northern Côte d'Ivoire. My name is Dr. Janasuba, and I'm the coordinator for the R4P project. This is the 7th webinar under a project called Resilience for Peace. And the R4P project is funded by the American people through USAID. And the project is implemented by Equal Access International in partnership with UNESCO of Bioethics from the University of Alassane Ouattara, Paix, and also Indigo and UFT. The purpose of this is to strengthen resilience and community apprenticeship of women, youth, and value the aspects of the cross-border communities with the objective to promote living together in the northern areas of Côte d'Ivoire. This webinar is the fruits of a study commissioned by Art for Peace projects led by Equal Access International, and the purpose is to develop understanding of the DOZO brotherhood in the northern areas of Côte d'Ivoire and contribute to peace, and also to ensure strengthen community resilience to violent extremism and also that of the social cohesion efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar will be centered on 6 items. We'll first have the presentation of the study for 20 minutes, and we'll have a 5-minute break for reflections to share a few with us in terms of your questions and remarks related to this presentation. And next will be the Q&A session where researchers for this study will address your potential questions and concerns. We'd like to specify that at this level, questions will go through the chat box. And finally, we have the welcome address. And before our wrap up, I would like to, before we wrap up, we will ask you to access the webinar towards further improving on the upcoming webinars. At this juncture, I would like to introduce the researcher team with you, beginning with Dr. Ngora Perfect, who is the lead researcher, who is a social anthropologist and is from University Alassane Ouattara Paix, and is assisted by Dr. Fofana Musa, who's also a teacher researcher at the Alassane Ouattara University of Paix and associate researcher at UNESCO Bioethics department. Then we have Dr. Biu, who's also a researcher, teacher researcher, associate researcher. Hear the speaker. We are not hearing the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, good morning. We are having 2 voices here.
De la Côte d'Ivoire. Nous tenons à rappeler que c'est
notre étude a porté sur Mesdames et messieurs, chers participants.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, good morning.
Aujourd'hui, nous avons
Today we are privileged to share with you the result of the study carried out under the R4P project. And the study is focused on the DOZO dynamics and social cohesion in the context of strengthening community resilience in the border localities of northern Côte d'Ivoire. And the outline of the presentation is as follows. The first item is the background. Second is the research questions. 3, research methodology, and 4, key results. 5, challenges and limits, and 6, recommendations, and 7, findings or conclusions. The context of this study, as you are aware, this is under the R4P program, but the study was commissioned following a request by communities that recurred at the first two learning summits, which led to this study. And the study covered three main regions, including Togo, Bagwe, and Folon. The aim of this study is to develop understanding of all the dynamics around the DOZO brotherhood and their connection with the social cohesion specifically, because we are found in a context of strengthening community resilience in those areas. So the ultimate goal is to help R4P to define a non-conflicting communication strategy around what we came to call the DOZO dynamic. So there are three main issues that have this study is organized around. The first concern was to get to all the factors, like local, political, economic factors that at any given time have encouraged the involvement of the DOZO in securing people and property. In addition to this first question, we also looked at the imaginary world and all the beliefs and perceptions that communities have about the DOZO. The second question was to get a feel for the agendas of the defense and security forces, which are in charge of law enforcement, and then that of the DOZO. And the purpose behind this was to find out whether these were not competing against each other or running counter to each other, and also discuss the potential effects arising from it. The third concern is related to local competitions over natural resources, and also to identify the tensions built up around the DOZO and see what the modalities for a non-conflict prone communication around this brotherhood are. So the research approach used under this study is mainly qualitative. In all, the study involved 281 people, including 63 women, i.e. 22.42% of the surveyed population. So what are the findings of this study? Concerning the first point centered on the DOZO's involvement in securing people and goods, we looked into the literature and realized that historically, the DOZO Brotherhood has played a security role dating back to the 13th century. And these functions were as follows. First of all, they acted as sentinels for village security, and also that bodyguard role of certain traditional chiefs. And then from the 19th onwards, this is captured in the report, and we see it when released. We saw that from the 19th onwards, with the resurgence of organized crime, the Ivorian state, faced with the malfunctioning of the formal security system, resorted to the DOZO. And since then, the DOZO have never really left the security system. And in 1995, 1999, and 2000, they got involved in elections to ensure security. And in 2002, they also joined the rebellion, why they even created a special unit called the Warriors of the Light Company in 2010-2011. In the wake of the political violence associated with the post-election crisis, they also acted as a proxy force for the forces supporting the current president against the former one. And from 2011 to the redeployment of the administration, that is 2013, 2014, they played the role of police and gendarmerie in several localities on the national territory. And since 2016, thanks to the new security dynamics linked to the violent extremism, the DOZO are still lingering, and they are still present and act as an important link in the prevention and fight against violent extremist groups. We have documented a whole series of events in which the DOZO were involved in securing people and goods at local level. And this table shows a number of events, but we focus on 3 of them. The first event was the arrest of a terrorist who had 12 Kalashnikovs and 3 automatic weapons or machine guns in their possession after Fakola attack in Mali in 2016. The second one is the arrest of suspected members of armed terrorist groups in Mayaso, Cologne, and Debete. This is recent, dating back to 2023, particularly in Tegnala, Debete, Kong, and Cologne. The latest events we have highlighted relates to the arrest of the road hijackers who allegedly murdered 17 civil servants between 2013 and 2014 in Kong. So as you can see, there's a whole series of events that drove the involvement, a strong involvement of those in local security. And there are many in the table, but we focus on 3 in the table. With regard to the second result related to perceptions around the DOZO, we have the trust of communities in the expertise of the DOZO. And this diagram or picture shows how often these DOZOs are appreciated by the different categories of people that we have interviewed. There's one administrative authority that mentioned, for example, that the DOZO play an important role in the security in the society, and as long as they regulate the social life, we cannot try to eliminate them, and we shouldn't take any action in this regard. And women also have a good perspective of the DOZO, and they said that during the period when the DOZO were protecting the markets, there were no thefts, but since they left, thefts have resumed. In terms of qualities, skills, and action and facts, the role of the DOZO is legitimated, and they have legitimacy because of their good knowledge and mastery of land and the bush. And when they they are quick to intervene when we call upon them. Another skill is that they can operate beyond the Ivorian borders in Burkina Faso and Mali. This is because they work with the DOZO in there. There's also the fact that they are good intelligence and warning agents for communities and for the official defense and security systems. These are the reasons why the DOZOs are highly regarded. And the DOZOs are seen as vectors of social breakdown, on the other hand. Many people appreciate this, but the Fulani community feel that the DOZO exaggerates a little in their actions and don't think the DOZO phenomenon is a good thing. The agents from the Ministry of Agriculture also feel that the DOZO lack honesty in their action. They often side with their farmers, whom they see as their parents, and they even receive they perceive something in their action, and they are not viewed as impartial. Regarding the third result on local security governance, we saw that the DOZO have a social organization, notably a chain of responsibility, and there's an organization between tradition and adaptation. The age-old organization is still based on traditional principles of internal hierarchy and organization. Every locality has a DOZO system structured around the DOZO chief with the title of DOZO back. We have also observed that they have a pronounced tendency towards bureaucracy. All the DOZO we met claim to belong to a DOZO association. Most of them so far are still informal, but they are working towards becoming official to comply with the administrative rules. We also saw that those who have an obligation to the customary authorities in the village. In some localities, the DOZO chief is an influential member of the chiefdom or notables, and they call upon them to address incidents in the village relating to safety or security. We can also see that we have a continued relationship with the central government authorities, those who are respected by administrative authorities and are known to the prefectural administration and official authorities, security authorities. They collaborate with the armed forces, the chiefs of the forest brigade and the defense and security authorities. Furthermore, we also obtained the following result. As far as membership is concerned, the DOZO, is a social body open to everyone, but you need to fulfill some conditions. And we saw that some women are members of this brotherhood. They are also involved with customary authorities. The DOZO is very close to the
du chef du village.
Notables, and they intervene at the request of the village chief. In terms of the DOZO intervention in the face of security problems, the DOZO constitutes a very the DOZO are viewed as a serious social system of mass security in the locality of all the northern regions. They also act in the intervene in the management of conflicts between breeders and farmers, and they are called upon to facilitate the to ensure the enforcement of the existing regulations and decisions. They intervene to bring back tender and also to address grievances over land boundaries and conflicts between herders and farmers. So these are the reasons for using the DOZOs, and there are different categories of people who resort to DOZO on a traditional scale. This also includes the defense and security forces, the population, and the economic operators for different reasons. And in the fourth part of this result, we looked at the convergences and antagonisms between the DOZO and state security officers. We started with the convergences between the two security layers. And following the analysis, we noted that there are some convergence on two levels. Ethically, the defense and security forces and those who share a commitment to serve the nation and community. And also those values meet those of the security and defense forces in some extent, such as defending the homeland, consolidating peace and development. They share a common commitment to fighting crime and maintaining law and order. In this part, convergence is at the local level of practice, and the defense and security forces, with their reduced number, leave a security vacuum that are bridged by the DOZO to fill the gap, to fulfill the needs. And the DOZO end up being substitute agents in the missions of the defense and security forces. So, they work in a form of complementarity. And we said that collaboration with the defense and security forces is essentially in terms of provision of intelligence and getting involved to support the defense and security forces in cracking down on the criminals. In terms of antagonism, let's discuss the first level, centered on the legal antagonism that relates to the space expected to regulate the relationship between the defense and security forces and DOZO. In this context, we have qualified this as extra legal because collaboration with DOZO and their intervention alongside the defense and security forces is not governed by a clear legal framework. So we believe this is taking place in full breach of the regulations in the country. Another aspect has to do with the carrying of weapons. Those who use firearms, generally the 12 gauge industrial or traditionally made weapons, in violation of the provisions of the decrees prohibiting the carrying of weapons and the regulation of arms and ammo in Côte d'Ivoire. There's also the question of hunting, because the DOZO Brotherhood is first and foremost a brotherhood of hunters, and hunting is a dividing element between the defense and security forces and the DOZO, as captured under the law since in Côte d'Ivoire since 1974. So the forest brigades or forestry officers are therefore not allowed to associate with a group that is involved in hunting. The other aspect has to do with the respect for human rights and the use of violence by DOZO. We have therefore noted the detention or custody and corporal punishment inflicted on individuals. These practices still persist among the population, showing that they do not share the same conceptions of human rights when it comes to addressing people's security. And this is quite recurring. And we also noted that the DOZO's volunteering work is running rife, and the DOZOs therefore share the feeling of non-recognition of their contribution to the efforts of the security and defense forces, despite the fact that their involvement in the fight against violent extremist groups is on a voluntary basis. During the discussions, the DOZO expressed the feeling that they were less and less appreciated, and many of them are calling for some form of rewards for their work. And we also have the involvement of DOZOs in cases of local competition over resources, particularly land resources, which are at the heart of the economy within these areas that are targeted by the study. The involvement of the DOZO in these land conflicts emerged, and this case is to ease tensions between protagonists, especially when it comes to disputed land between villages. The DOZOs help to settle conflicts, and they're also involved in addressing some issues where they intervene under the request of or decision by the local authorities. They make sure that decisions are enforced as well. There's need to also note, as mentioned by Prof. Blue, that the conflict between herders and farmers involve quite a lot the DOZOs, and they are often accused of being biased in their judgments. The DOZOs are also involved in the management of land and mining resources, intervening in artisanal mining areas. Next slide, please. Still on the issue of involvement, this table is showing the nature and purpose of reason for conflicts involving the intervention of the DOZO in land disputes, notably for the delineation of land boundaries between villages. We have therefore noted that there are several cases in DBT, the Boson, and they also have the conflict involving security of tenure, as there are cases of dispossession of plots of land in various localities. So this is a table that gives us an overlay of the involvement of the DOZOs in cases of local competition over resources. Slide, please. So firstly, our study encountered challenges and limitations, confining surveys to traditional and historical areas favorable to the DOZO Brotherhood has reduced the perspectives or angles for reading the risks and opportunities connected to DOZO cohesion and dynamics. Another limitation of the study is that knowledge of the social world of these brotherhoods calls for relatively longer period of anthropological immersion, which may go beyond the study period of a few weeks in the field. And the cross-border nature of the phenomenon is therefore seen as a limitation, as we were unable to investigate beyond the Ivorian and Burkinabe or Ivorian Malian borders, which is also a difficulty that prevents us from getting into depth of certain research questions. So in terms of conclusions, we have provided that in two categories, namely the lesson learned and recommendations. The first lesson learned is that those are now known, an integral part of the community resilience, and as we have shown, they have contributed to the resilience through the diverse involvement in restoring collective tranquility, in part strengthened by the trust and belief that people have in their superhuman abilities. The second lesson learned is those organizations are now helping to strengthen social cohesion, particularly in the study area, and they work in good relationship with the other components of society. In addition to security, the DOZO brotherhoods also act in terms of ensuring mediation and reconciliation in events of conflicts. The third lesson we have learned is that they are also requested by the private economic leaders, particularly for companies involved in gold mining sites. This shows that areas that are covered by the defense and security forces are collaborating with the DOZO, which appears less and less as a voluntary service for the benefit of the community. We have also pointed out that there is what can be described as an extra legal framework for collaboration between DOZO and the defense and security forces, which could be a double-edged sword and also present risk. They are linked to the choice of that administrative and security authorities are obliged to make between security realism and prudent recourse to DOZOs. In terms of recommendations, first of all, we recommend that we should better regulate the case of collaboration between defense and security forces and the DOZO. And second recommendation is the need to discuss and define a policy for recognizing the actions carried out by the DOZO. And the third recommendation is that in collaboration with the DOZO associations and the brotherhood chiefs, we need to raise awareness into risk associated with extra legal practices and insist on the introduction of the culture of punishment in the DOZO communities. And fourthly, we need to strengthen the policy of security coverage in the northern border areas. The study showed that in addition to social, anthropological, and cultural factors, people's use of DOZO also gives rise to structural issues. And still under recommendations, they need to create regular forums between human rights advocates to anticipate potential risk for social cohesion, which is developing around the resentment against violence practices. There's a need to promote the establishment of an inclusive framework for exchange between community committees.
Sur ce, je vous remercie.
Merci à l'équipe de recherche, Dr.
Thank you to the team of researchers, Dr. Ngoran, Dr. Fofana, and Mr. Bleu. Now we're going to take 5 minutes off for reflections. Please, we invite you to write your questions in the chat box. Tell us what you are taking home from the presentation and make your comments in the chat box, and we will extend them to the research team to get their responses. Thank you. So please write your comments and questions in the chat box.
Deuxième question. Nous avons encore 2 minutes. Vous pouvez toujours réagir dans le chat.
We have 2 minutes left. Keep on writing your questions and comments in the chat box, please.
Nous avons encore 1 minute. Avant de
1
passer
minute,
à la phase des échanges.
1 more minute before the discussion session.
Voilà, nous sommes au terme de nos 5 minutes de
So this is the end of the 5-minute reflection session. Now the researchers are going to answer the questions asked. Thank you. We're going to take a series of questions that we will read out to the researchers so they can give the answers to these questions. As for the first series of questions, there is one question that relates, it is, what are the limitations of the DOZO's actions and how is coordination ensured between the DOZO's and the defense and security forces? Second question, what proposals have the DOZO made in terms of the formalization of their activities? Question number 3, have you identified different DOZO brotherhoods and the relationships between them? Let me stop here and let's discuss these 3 questions. Dear researchers, you have the floor to answer the questions. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jarasuba. And congratulations. Congratulations for your facilitation of the meeting. For concerning the first question, I would first like to leave the floor to my colleague Fofana. Then me or my colleague Bleu can take over. So let me give him the floor. Dr. Fofana, could you please answer the first question concerning the limitations of the DOZO's actions and how coordination is ensured between the DOZO's and the security and defense forces? Dr. Fofana, are you with us? Can you hear me, Dr. Fofana? Yes. Doc, maybe you can take this question. Maybe Dr. Fofana is having some challenges with his internet. So either of you or Dr. Bleu can take the question. Okay, as we wait for Dr. Fofana to rejoin us, let me start. I will start with the second question and then go back to the first one. Coordination between the DOZO Brotherhood and the security and defense forces. In the context of the prevention of violent extremist groups, especially on the operational plan, as it stood out during the presentation, there are some areas where which are difficult to access by the security forces. So, according to data we have collected, the DOZOs, groups like the DOZOs are the ones who know those areas the best, more familiar with those areas. So on the operational plan, they generally go into those areas and operate there. It has been noted several times that most of the people suspected of belonging to extremist groups and who were arrested in those areas were mainly arrested by the DOZOs. So this mainly applies to the operational level. They are more involved at the operational level. They also play a role of intelligence, source of intelligence. They provide valuable intelligence to the security and defense forces to conduct their own operations. So that's where coordination and collaboration is maintained between the DOZOs and formal groups such as the security and defense forces and those we call alternative groups. So that's how collaboration is ensured. Regarding the limitations of the DOZO's actions, my understanding of this question is where does the DOZO's action stop? How far can they get involved in security? But it has been fully demonstrated in the presentation. For example, during the time of the rebellion, where this government was not represented in certain areas, the DOZOs were in charge of law enforcement in those areas. But with the redeployment of the administration to those areas, the DOZOs are still playing a key role in security, but they cannot replace the police or the gendarmerie. So there are some limits that they cannot cross, and they are fully aware of that. And they cannot also play the role of judges. So generally, they are involved in the resolution of land conflicts and other similar conflicts together with village chiefs. So there are some lines they cannot cross for the moment. So we think this is what characterizes the collaboration between the DOZOs and the security and defense forces in the communities we visited. Mr. Bleu and Fofana, do you have anything to add? Yes, Dr. Bleu speaking. Regarding the associations of the DOZOs we've talked to, there was a question about the different DOZO associations and the relationships they were maintaining with each other. We found from our study that some of the DOZO groups were claiming to belong to a certain wing of the DOZO Brotherhood, and another group was claiming to belong to another, what they call Benkadi Dozo Vandugu. So this is a certain wing of the Dozo Brotherhood they were claiming to belong to. And also we found a chief of the Dozo who is a member of the Federation of Dozo Associations. You know, there are two wings. You have one wing of the Dozo Brotherhood who claim to be the original ones, and these ones are based in Wandugu. And then you have the Federation of the Dozo Brotherhoods. In 2012, the government had attempted to structure them, and the government requested them to form a single association of all the DOZOs, but this is yet to be done. There are some are officially recognized, but those who claim to be the original DOZOs who are based in Wandugu are not yet recognized legally. So they are taking the necessary steps to have legal existence. These are our observations regarding this question, and maybe Fofana can come in. No, I suggest we take another question, and Dr. Fofana, you can come in on that question. As for the second series of questions, there is a participant who would like this question to be answered. How are the DOZOs working with the civil society associations involved in mediation and also with peace mediators? Second question, is the DOZO Brotherhood accepted and active in the northeast of the country, especially the locations of Doropo, Teini, and Buna? Can you hear me? Yes. Regarding the collaboration between the DOZOs and the civil society, we do not have a lot of examples because the mediation actions undertaken by the DOZO associations are not formal actions. So in areas where you have civil society organizations conducting mediation, they might encounter the DOZO brotherhoods as stakeholders in those mediation actions just randomly, just in case the DOZOs are involved in the conflicts or its resolution. But the DOZOs, as we explained in the presentation, they don't take on themselves to solve conflicts when there is a conflict in the community. So but they are still open to dialogue when they are a party to the crisis or to the conflict. So we have, so far, we've not noted any body stating that the DOZOs are hindering mediation. And this leads us to the next question regarding the Bunkani region. We are all aware that the DOZO Brotherhood became more visible during the community conflict that happened in 2016 in this region between different groups of the community. This achievement of the DOZOs has been really remarkable, and to the point that during the experience sharing session, the people coming from those areas, they said they did no longer want to hear about the DOZOs in the region because they criticized the action of the DOZOs. But it is understandable because this is not the original region of the DOZOs. So this has led us to understand that the DOZO aspect is to be taken seriously as it can undermine social cohesion. But this current study has not covered that region, so we do not have enough data for comparison. But we know very well that not mentioning the DOZO Brotherhood in the Bunkani region doesn't mean that they do not exist there. So there are certain talks and facts that fuel tensions among the communities regarding the DOZOs. So the DOZO Brotherhood and the DOZO society is considered as a threat in the region. So that's why we are calling for more clarity around the relationships that the communities have, the DOZO community is to maintain with other communities. So this requires more reflections. We have examples in other countries, like a group in Burkina Faso who played a great role among the security and defense forces in the past, and now they have turned into an opponent. So we clearly know that that Bunkani region is kind of hostile to the DOZOs, but the DOZOs yet still continue to operate in their region. Thank you, Dr. Fofana. Let's take another 2 questions, and thank you to the audience for your interest in this topic. One of the 2 last questions is the following. From the presentation, the participant says, I understand that the DOZOs can operate beyond our borders. Now the question is this: have such interventions ever caused any diplomatic problems? And if so, what channels have been used to address those diplomatic problems? The last question is the following. Is there a close relationship between the DOZOs and the security and defense forces? In other terms, is the role of the DOZOs recognized by the law? Let me start. Thank you. Thank you for these 2 questions. You know, research is based on facts. We can speak only on the basis of the facts we have witnessed, but there is nothing that tells us that the DOZOs operating beyond our borders has generated a diplomatic conflict between Côte d'Ivoire and its neighboring countries in the northern part. For the moment, the mode of operation of the DOZOs, practically speaking, because we're talking about practical security issues. In this respect, the collaboration between the DOZOs in Côte d'Ivoire Coast and the DOZOs in Mali or Burkina Faso is something that is an instrument that enables to contain some terrorist attacks. And we also know that in that region of the country, we see a lot of cattle thefts. And so with the collaboration between the DOZOs in Côte d'Ivoire, Mali, and Burkina Faso, the capacity of these groups are enhanced because they can go beyond the borders of Côte d'Ivoire to arrest thieves, cattle thieves. So pragmatically speaking, this collaboration, cross-border collaboration between DOZO associations works well. We have not noted any particular incident that would create diplomatic issues between Côte d'Ivoire and its neighboring countries. What was the second question?
La deuxième question, c'était de savoir...
The second question was...
Oui, je vous lis la deuxième question.
Yes, I'm reading out the second question. Can you hear me, Dr. Diarasuba? Yes, I can hear you. The second question is this. Is there a close relationship between the DOZOs and the security and defense forces? In other terms, is the role of the DOZOs recognized by the law? Did you hear me? Dr. Fofana, you can take this question. As we already said, the collaboration between the defense and security forces and the DOZOs is based on what Parfait was saying. It is based on security realities. There is actually no specific framework guiding their collaboration in the area of security, but our observation is that in the collaboration between the defense and security forces and the DOZOs is highly appreciated as they share intelligence and information. For example, in the Comoé National Park, the DOZOs have been trained to identify improvised explosive devices, and they once in time they played the role of the security forces in areas where those forces were not present, and they were successfully able to identify improvised explosive devices and dismantle them. So, you know, but the only thing is that there is no legal framework or administrative arrangement governing this collaboration. Those are participating in the security of the communities just because they are concerned about their communities. So this work is done, this happens in a gray zone where there is no administrative arrangement or legal arrangement. Dr. Fofana, to finish on this aspect, one participant is asking, what could be the consequence of the DOZO's status in 3 years, and how can these dynamics evolve? As we said in the presentation, the dynamics vary from a region to another. In the Bonkani region, which was not covered by the study, the populations don't want the DOZOs to be much visible. In certain regions, for example, the DOZOs are not setting checkpoints as they did before, but the DOZOs still get engaged by business operators to maintain security of their facilities. The point is that the DOZOs will not disappear from this security landscape where challenges are high. So the dynamics will continue to evolve. And so far, there is no legal framework governing their action. So it is difficult for us to guess what could happen in 3 years, but it is vital for us to recognize that the DOZO factor has become important to the resilience of the communities facing extremist attacks. Thank you, Dr. Fofana, and thank you to the research team, Dr. Ungora and Mr. Bleu. Dear participants, the time allocated for this session is getting to an end, and we are really delighted to see how much interest you have displayed for this presentation. And you have shown a great interest for understanding the dynamics of the DOZOs in the context of violent extremism. Now it is time for us to evaluate this seminar in order to improve on future webinars. You will see some questions on your screen. Please kindly type your answers directly. 5 minutes allocated for this questionnaire or evaluation. And we invite you to please do the evaluation.
On peut disposer.
Dr. Diarasuba, can we, or do we have to stay? No, we're almost done. We have 5 minutes to go. So please, can you bear with us? Just the time for the participants to fill out the evaluation. I would like to, in the meantime, to say thank you to you, and we will be expecting you for our next webinar, and that webinar will discuss the relationships between violent extremism and unlawful activities, and in the context of financing of violent extremism.
Dr. Bleou.
Dr. Bleou.
Oui, allô?
Merci, chers participants. Merci.
Thank you, dear participants. Thank you for the interest you displayed for this webinar. Now, we will be expecting you for the 8th webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Diarasuba. And see you soon.